Welcome to Goldfish on Games, where today we're playing What's on That Disc? A game where the only real winners are you, the viewers. This is Games Red Edition, and was released by E2. And just check out some of this box blurb. Get ready for some action-packed fun with this best ever, in quotes, collection of 50 full-featured games. Now, that is a bit of an odd line when you look at the rest of the packaging. Many of the games are special edition SE versions of popular E2 titles. Every SE game features a limited number of levels taken from the full version. That's a demo, isn't it? Yep, that's a demo. Right now, I only have these real screenshots to go by of what's on the disc, because as you can see, this is still sealed. No one wanted to check it out before. So let's unseal it and get it installed. Welcome to the Galaxy of Games Red Edition. 50 games across 3 pages, though they aren't really pages. Each one is its own program on the drive, and that's pretty much all the installer did, put these 3 programs on the disk. But did you notice something else? If we count up the number of games on each page, we come up with 26. So it seems the name wasn't the only inconsistency between the box and the content. On top of that, if we look at the CD, we can find the folder with the installers. And there's 29 of them. So what are those 3 extra games? Well, I'll guess we'll find out later. Let's start off by picking some random games on each page. And well, that's a bit awkward, isn't it? The first one we tried, it's complaining that we need more than 3 megabytes of VRAM. And this machine has way more than required. So for now, let's just move on to the next one. And the first game we actually get to play is Demon Star. And wait, is that Bobby Prince doing the music? The Doom composer? Nice!
Fire slow.
This is a vertical shooter that honestly isn't all that bad. I like the look of the graphics, with there being lots of particle effects going on, and with most of the objects having a decent number of frames of animation as well. Even if it's that 3D rendered look that has mostly fallen out of style today. The gameplay is fun enough, and there even seems to be an upgrade system in place, with there being a few different weapons that you can switch between based on the colour of the icons that you collect. And there's some special icons that seem to level up the guns as well. I'm not sure how many levels there are to the guns, but it does seem to add a nice little bit to the game. As do the secondary weapons like missiles. And various smart bombs are here as well, with some having this big cool explosion and others having this spread attack. And both of them look quite cool. And you can't forget the bosses, which are these massive bullet sponges. And they are the closest that we get to a bullet hell style game, with various patterns that you have to try and avoid. All in all, it's a surprisingly fun little game. And if all the games are this good, then we might actually be in for a good time. Next up is Puzzle. And yes, it's a jigsaw puzzle game. I think I might have spoken too quickly before. You can move the various pieces around the board, as well as place them in boxes that you can trigger from the side, that can help you organise them. There's even a range of images for you to select from, and you can even set up how the parts are split up. Even if some of the cuts are way too regular, which really makes it harder to work out which parts go together. but I really shouldn't expect too much from this type of game. Though I will say, some of the sound effects on the options menu is fun. It's a simple enough premise, but done surprisingly well, but not something that you'd really return to. This being a family-friendly compilation, that means we must have some slots. US slots. Get your head out the gutter. This is the most basic one-armed bandit style fruit machine that you can find. You select 1 to 3 credits and then start it off. If you get any matches, then you'll win some more credits. That's it. There's no boards to play, no holding of items. It doesn't even seem to line up the items correctly. I've played better examples of this as bonus stages in Amiga games. And to top it all off, when I closed the game, it crashed the computer. Definitely not returning. The next page kicks off with Moon Buggy. Which is very obviously a take on Moon Patrol. From the buggy, to the moon, to the shooting forward and up, and jumping over things. The background graphics are a little basic, even with a few layers of parallax scrolling, but they really went to town with the background music. It's not to my taste, but that musician clearly put in a lot of effort into this one. The game itself is enjoyable enough. There are lots of things for you to shoot at, with some of the craft being very familiar. But you can't give them your complete attention, as you'll have to avoid obstacles on the ground as well, which start off quite simple, but get increasingly more complex as the game goes on. In fact, they've actually done quite a good job of making sure each level adds new stuff into it to keep it interesting. And with just 4 levels, and as far as I can tell unlimited lives, it's not going to last you all that long. But if you're like me, you'll actually have a lot of fun playing it. And where can we go after being on a moon? Well, to space again, if the ident video of this mini golf game is to be believed. And that slightly odd space motif continues in this very late 90s, early 2000s UI design. And that background music. I think I had Winamp skins like this. Being a special edition version, this has a limited number of courses. But I will say they do give you quite the nice range that you can play on. The controls are straightforward, you use the mouse to aim and provide the power. And nothing happens until you release the mouse button. So you can keep moving it around and tweaking the speed by moving the mouse around. And remember, it's all in the hips. It's all in the hips. Right off the bat, or I should say the green, we have a set of pipes to aim for, with the ball popping out onto another part of the map. And with a bit of practice, the ball has returned to its home. And from there, the levels just get more and more complex as you go along. As there's a teleporter on the second level. There's one with mines, and people trying to shoot the ball on another one. But thankfully, there's not a single clown head in sight. It's a fun title, but it is a bit of a shame that it's a demo, and one that you'll complete in less than 20 minutes. So after that, all you got to do is play it again if you want to try and avoid those triple bogeys. The space theme is continued in Nebula Fighter, a game that has detected MMX technology. Ooh, I can't wait to see what it uses that for. And this is actually a very fancy menu. Not MMX fancy, but still fancy. This is another shooter, but this time it's side-on. And it's one that has a larger playing field than what is visible, so you can move the view up and down with your craft, which means baddies can try and sneak up on you from above or below. You start off with this very basic pea shooter, but from what I've worked out, those little pickups that you can see will upgrade your weapon after a set amount. And it goes quite quickly from something that's barely taking out the baddies to screen-filling bullet monsters. I guess this is where all that fancy MMX technology is being put to use. On top of your main weapon, you'll also find extras to augment it, like side rockets, or this very Xenon 2 looking rear blaster. In this special edition version of the game, there is only 6 levels, and about 20 seconds of looping music. Thankfully, you can rarely hear much of it over all the gun sounds and the explosions. Each level finishes off with a boss fight, which isn't all that surprising. But what is interesting is that when you beat them, you'll get their weapon. And from that point onwards, you can freely switch between any of the weapons that you've collected, which can be quite handy when your shields run out and you blow up, as all those upgrade points are gone. Thankfully, there are smart bombs that can be used to clear the screen, but most of the time you can just save them for the bosses, particularly if you've got your gun fully upgraded, as all the weapon upgrades get quite ridiculous with the amount of firepower going on. It's also very generous with the extra lives that it hands out as well, so completing the demo shouldn't be all that hard, but you will have a lot of fun getting to the end. And we are now onto the final page. So let's see what other gems are awaiting us. First up is Crazy Drake, which for some odd reason only wants to run in a very tiny corner of the screen. So I think it's time to switch to another machine, and this is much better. After selecting the world, of which we have a choice of 3 because this is another special edition, we get a platformer that looks and feels a lot like Earthworm Jim. It's just we have Drake the Duck as the hero, and it's quite nicely animated as well. Not quite up to the level of the game that obviously inspired it, but not as bad as I've seen many other platformers of the time. And the levels are quite large as well, with lots of paths for you to take. And it seems that eggs are the main collectible here. You get an extra life. My coat is staying right where it is. I like their way of getting you back on track after you've taken a diversion though, with these elevators. It's such a cool little animation.
Come here. Beat it. Ouch!
And just with that wormy game, you have a gun, but this time with unlimited ammo, and with slightly less feedback on where and what you're currently hitting. There is no other attack in this game, at least as far as I've seen, but there are upgrades to the gun. Thankfully you can aim around you, so that does make taking out those evil plants and butterflies down. And the levels themselves are quite creative enough, with the haunted house looking really quite nice. but it does make one of the cardinal sins when it comes to bosses. There is no checkpoint before them, and it's more or less one hit and you're dead. So you better work out what it is you need to do in those 5 seconds before you get thrown back to half the level. It's an interesting game, and one that looks like it could be a lot of fun, if at least you have a guide for those bosses. And it seems we're getting a proper puzzle game now in the form of Garret. Which I hate to say took me a lot longer to work out how to play than expected. Your goal is to collect 5 or more bugs. You do that by switching 2 bugs around on the spiderweb. Every time you do that, more bugs will show up. Then when you eventually get 5 connected, you can right click on them, which will then trigger the spider to go out and collect them for points. With obviously the more bugs that you collect, the more points you'll get. Which is meant to give you this whole risk-reward system, because if the web gets too full, then it's game over. The issue is, it feels a little random where the bugs will join the web. So you might think you have more time to organise the web than you actually have. The presentation is quite nice, particularly the pause menu, even if it is a little slow to animate on. But the core puzzle mechanic, it isn't great. That high bar of 5 bugs mean you spend way more time trying to shuffle stuff around, particularly when you can see the end is coming. It's a bit of a shame because most of the puzzlers on this disc have been recreation of boards or card games. So I was really looking forward to seeing some weird or interesting unique puzzle game. So we might as well come to the last game on the menu, Speedy Eggbert. Another platforming game with eggs. Or at least our hero is egg-shaped. And the first thing it makes you do, once you get past this slightly overcomplicated menu, is to play a tutorial that shows you all the basic moves. Big jump, small jump, cardboard box. But for a game called Speedy Eggbert, he's not the fastest thing around, is he? And with the tutorial over, we get to enter another monitor, which seems to take us to a level selection. And this has to be the most boring tile art I think I've ever seen in a title. Just grey rocks with more grey rocks behind you. And what the game fails to explain to you, even though it had the tutorial, is that your main goal is to collect the treasure chests. Why an egg needs treasure, I'm not entirely sure, but that's what he does. Maybe he's related to Dizzy, but at least Dizzy had some personality. So you have to explore the level trying to find all of them, with there being lots of blind jumps and moving platforms to deal with. Many of which you won't even know are there unless you hang around for a while, because they really do travel quite a distance, and not always at a decent speed. There's also more of those mines that will try and turn you into scrambled eggs. I do like the nice touch of the lives flying up from the HUD when you die, but it would have been better if it didn't just fly up and sit on top of a sprite that was already there. I think Super Frog handled that so much better. And it would have been nice if the other levels were more interesting than this one, but at least the second one isn't. But if you do look hard enough, you might find some power-ups, with one of them that looks like it makes you invincible. Or not. It seems to speed you up, so yay, it's finally Speedy Eggbert. And there's also a jetpack, which I didn't get much chance to use. But even with those, I think I'll give this game a miss. And so what were those 3 extra games? Well, after looking at that folder and realising one of them was a DirectX installer, I found one extra game, Dweebs. And it's a puzzle game, but one in that Lemmings Timekeeper style, that you have to try and direct your coloured dweebs to their homes. And wait, are those the PlayStation symbols on the exits? Is that why this isn't on the menu? Did they piss off Sony? I understand them not wanting to be too reliant on colour, and obviously helping the colourblind. But with the symbols only being on the houses, and not the dweebs themselves, well, it's not really helping anyone, is it? Either way, this is a slightly plodding game, and one that has a time limit. So you can't really plan out everything at first, you just have to keep going, and make it up as you go along. I think there might be a good game here, but it might take a bit of digging. And with that, I think we're at the end of this venture into this CD. And overall, I was pleasantly surprised with the games. Yeah, most of the really good ones were demos, I mean special editions. But they were much better than I was expecting. Though I did avoid some of the really basic looking games, like the card or board ones. But who knows, they might have been good as well. And if there's any of these games you'd like to see again, or if you spotted one in the menu that we didn't try and you'd like to see it, then let me know down in the comments. I always enjoy hearing from you all. And until next time, I've been the Goldfish. That was better than it had any right to be. And this was Goldfish on Games. Thank you for watching my video. I do hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, you can let me know down in the comments, or you can use those buttons just below. You know the ones I mean. Or if you're not sure yet, then you can check out 2 other videos that I've done that are on the screen right now. So thank you again, and I hope to see you soon.